Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Annihilation, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Tomb of Annihilation. If you are playing characters Mannix, Kaless, Gillian, George, or Theron, you are not welcome here, but for the rest of you, welcome aboard. We stream our Tomb of Annihilation sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. Catch up on previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. If you'd like to support my channel, you can check out patreon.com/roguewatson. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons, Andrew, Brian, Richard, and Joe, and Gold patrons, RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy and Yuma, Marcos, David, Vicente, Gilberto, Sean, aka Cert2B, and Adam. Thank you all very much for your support. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net, and for streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. Welcome. Why do we have health bars all of a sudden on our splash screen? That's not right. I know there was another Roll20 update that came through, and that tends to do cool things, but also break some things, and half of our characters ended up with health bars. I guess, I don't know. That was a selection I made at some point. I actually did make that an actual... yeah, it is their token. Huh. Alright, I don't know why it only shows up on some of them. That's weird. Anyway, welcome everyone. Arno, Eldrin, Crazy Pat, Michael, hello everyone. You are welcome. That was fun chatting with you. As I try to remember campaigns past. Speaking of campaigns past, I have been very stingy on magic items. So I was looking back recently on which magic items, kind of like the amount of loot I've been giving my players based on our past campaigns, which has actually been really hard to compare because for Storm King's Thunder, that campaign is very loot heavy, but also it's very... it's all tier 2 and tier 3. Like, we blasted through the low levels. By the time, what are we, session 20, I believe now? Session 20 or 21? By the time we were this session, we were like halfway through level 6. And right now my players are just early level 4, so it's hard to compare lengthwise versus level-wise. So I was actually looking at Lost Mine of Phandelver / Princes as a better comparison, which also was weird because obviously Lost Mine is its own campaign from 1 to 4, and then Princes we just went from 4 to whatever it was, 12. And that one was very flush with loot. Like I looked up a listing because obviously Phandelver is very popular and people have listed out the loot, and there's a lot of it, a lot more than what my poor players have gotten. So I plan on upping their loot amount quite a bit. But unfortunately, Tomb of Annihilation doesn't have a lot of loot in it, at least until the later stages. So I'm having to come up with some loot on my own. Let's... because we actually spam accounts of your players. How dare you! That's very tricky. That's probably putting way too much effort into looking up the spoiler campaigns. I do feel bad. Chris especially, you know, obviously he was a DM for our Storm King's Thunder campaign, and we like talking about D&D whenever we can, but we can very rarely, you know, openly discuss what each other are doing because we play in each other's campaigns. And I know one thing is he was really bummed about not being able to watch and join for crafting, because obviously that would be hugely spoilery. If the token is using a bar for... oh, yeah, I know. I just don't know why. Normally, the splash screen didn't have our health bars on there, and now all of a sudden 3 of them do. I don't know. That's just weird. I didn't think they normally had a health bar on them. I might have been just doing an update. Anyway, so first I always recap what we did in our last session, which was going to Mabala and then ascending Mabala. I didn't have a whole lot of encounters for the path to Mabala. My players just came away from a lot of combat-heavy encounters in Camp Vengeance. They were fully rested, so I can throw more combat at them and not feel too bad about it. But I did have the Gorillan encounter, which worked out pretty much exactly how I thought it would work, which is I give the players an out, but I also dangle some loot in front of them. And I mean, what self-respecting player can walk away from loot like that? So they took the bait. They definitely wanted to grab the loot. It was, I think, what, Kaless and George that actually, when I was planning on having the Gorillans jump down into the players and start beating the shit out of them and spreading out their attacks, but the players ended up getting better initiative and actually just went after the guerrillas directly. This is not, again, unlike Storm King's Thunder, we had a lot of ranged combat opportunities where like 2 sorcerers alone could just obliterate people from range, whereas this team is not very ranged focused. They really have to get into melee range, so Kales used Vorn, and George used his gloves of climbing to actually climb up into the trees and fight, which in hindsight I probably could have made that a little more fiddly and complicated, being that you are fighting like in a tree a bunch of guerrillas, but whatever. I just kind of ignored that and just kind of ran the combat straight forward. Mainly because my players were also hilariously not aware of how powerful those guerrillas are. You know, they've got 4 arms, but still, you don't translate 4 arms to 5 attacks in multi-attack, right? Because, again, you have 2 arms, you don't automatically get 2 attacks. Well, I guess you can use a bonus action to get a double attack, but anyway. So that was fun. I beat the shit out of Kales and George, but ultimately the players were obviously able to persevere because there was only 2 of them. And they got some loot out of it, which was nice, and that was really the only encounter. And I didn't even have them roll for getting lost. I'm becoming less and less enthused with even having that be a thing because, again, if they never get lost in the entire jungle, they're still going to have plenty of time and encounters in the jungle. And I think getting lost would just really bog down the hex crawl. So I'm debating on the fact of even just eliminating the survival check to explore at this point, because the players always have a guide with them, and maybe that's just the reward for having some kind of a Chult guide, is you basically never get lost. If you have a destination in mind, which they always do, then you won't get lost. So I think I'm leaning towards just eliminating that part of the travel rules, because, I mean, there's plenty of encounters as written. And then they got to Mabala. During play, Mannix came up with a brilliant plan to lull the flying folk into believing they have captured him only to get the backdoor knife. Yeah, we're getting to that. So a big thing of the Terra folk, which I have not used in our campaign yet, is that they snatch people and fly them off to their nest, which is a really fun story concept to be able to separate the party, is actually having enemies that specifically want to capture players and not just kill them. And that's a really tricky thing to do. A lot of players are, rightly so, uncomfortable with losing control of their characters. And you have to be very, very careful, I think, as a DM, to really make sure it makes things more interesting and not less interesting. In other words, knocking a player unconscious or doing those kind of things isn't really interesting for the player. But separating the players and putting some players into different, unique circumstances can be very interesting for the players. So I'm hoping this will lead to some fun shenanigans. It's getting slightly ahead of ourselves because I did have the fight, let's see, in this map, which was just a really simple kind of mountain trail map in Roll20 that I'd slightly customized with more rocks. The only problem with this encounter was my players were exceedingly confused on how to visualize it. And to their credit, Roll20 is just not, and this tabletop in general, or I should say like a flat plane, you know, a grid map is not conducive to a 3-dimensional fight. You know, if you have a top-down grid map, then you can do most situations, but trying to do a battle on a cliff, which is, you know, almost a 2D battlefield on a top-down map is really kind of confusing. And there's not really a great way of doing it. If you look back, for Princes of the Apocalypse, whenever we did the Scarlet Moon Hall battle, I actually tried doing that as both a 2D and 3D map, and that was also confusing. But I had, because they have to climb ladders to ascend the tower outside, and I had that actually as a 2D, almost looked like a side-scrolling platformer that the players could do. And then once they got on the tower, it turned into like a top-down thing, which that was confusing also. But it's just kind of a limitation to Roll20. There's not, you know, a good way to do 3-dimensional battles. And that ended up being a little confusing in terms of trying to do positioning, which is why I'm just kind of eyeball it like, yeah. And it was confusing, I think, too, to my players. I kept trying to say, like, they're attacking from, like, not from the cliff. Like, they're coming in from the open sky kind of a thing. And, like, when they captured Mannix and George, you know, they go off into the sky, even though they eventually go round. But I think it worked out pretty well. Gillian doing the fog cloud ended up being a big pain in the ass for me. We did change our fog cloud rules because I think fog cloud is it's a great spell in practice, but it does not have good rules for it, because a lot of those obscure, you know, who can see what rules are very ill-defined in D&D 5th edition. And we have gone through literally several iterations of how to do fog cloud, and during Lost Mine of Phandelver, and then Prince of the Apocalypse, I went through different methods of doing it, and then Storm Kings we came up with, like, well, you have to do a stealth check versus perception roll, and it just really slowed things down, ended up being a pain in the ass. So I think my rule that I had going forward, which, again, we put into our house rules for Tomb of Annihilation, is that you straight up cannot target people in the fog cloud, and if you're in the fog cloud, you cannot target people out of the fog cloud. If both targets are in the fog cloud, and they are next to each other, then you can target each other, but it's disadvantage, and that's just it. Like and I think that advantage disadvantage rule, that's why it exists. Is because it's designed to streamline a lot of those really fiddly rules that come into place with tabletop role-playing games, and I really like that system. I really like 5th edition for doing that, and I'm just embracing that with Fog Cloud. So that ended up working pretty well. George ran off, so the Terrafolk targeted him. I did have one Terrafolk crash into the Fog Cloud and try to jack with the players. The one thing which Kales totally reminded me of this, chat, you should have reminded me of this too, is the fact that if you put a fog cloud on the top of a 1,500 tall plateau, there's a good chance the wind is going to blow it away. And I'm glad one of my players mentioned that, because that's totally what I ended up doing, is having that wind eventually have the fog cloud roll down the plateau and dissipate. I never want to just, I mean, if there's a saving throw, then that can negate things, but I never want to just kind of put the kibosh on a player for using a spell when it was a good idea. So I did have it last for, a number of rounds, but eventually it was moving almost kind of like what's the death cloud rule, where it literally just rolls down some direction. So that worked out well and let me grab some of the players. Let me check up on chat for a second. Unless you're Raymond volunteered for it. Do you ever use GIMP? Yes, I use GIMP. It's an easy tool on free maps. I use GIMP to make the like crafting annihilation splash screen that you see, that kind of stuff. I am not a art person at all. I'm really, really bad at it. So I just try to do like the bare minimum. This map you could have turned off the dynamic lighting. Yeah, I probably should have in hindsight, because and the other thing is, when you watch the campaign from my point of view, you guys don't see the dynamic lighting until occasionally I do try to do the this maneuver so you can see what they're looking at, but I think this also confused the players, especially when Gillian decided to jump up and then she ended up just seeing this, which is not very useful, and I fell for. So yes, I probably should have just turned off dynamic lighting ultimately, and just had them like say like, look, here's where the cliff is, don't, and I trust my players, like, don't, you can't enter this space. So in hindsight, yes, I should have just turned off dynamic lighting and mentioned the fact that, okay, here's how it does the little switchback, this is a height elevation difference and all that. We ended up getting through it, but it was a little confusing. I like to use isometric maps for my games and use altitude tokens. So by isometric, you mean like literally the 3/4 view, like the Strahd Castle is done. That's a really interesting design. I actually reviewed a pair of modules that used that kind of map choice, the Heir of Orcus maps. I think it was isometric that did like that pixel art map. Those look nice. I've never thought about actually doing them because they just don't seem to fit with Roll20's grids, but I haven't really tried to adapt them that way either. But the cool thing about this battle, and again, my whole purpose of this fight, well, I mean, obviously to just attack the players and wear them down, was to try to kidnap some folks and take them to the Terrafolk nest and really make Mabala a more interesting location. Mabala does not have much going on for it. It has a single Terrafolk lair that the players would probably never find. I guess there's a cave on the top of Mabala they can find, and then Nanny Poo Poo is kind of an odd event if you don't really want to do the Rite of Stolen Life thing. So I'm spicing things up by having the Terrafolk be a very active presence around Mabala. They've obviously attacked the players now, and they kidnapped half the players. Now, Mannix was a straight-up kidnap. I tried to kidnap Inette because I figure she's just an easy person to kidnap. She's just a weak, like, kind of level 1 party member. And she fucking, again, I do all my rolls out in the open. That's just how we've always done our campaigns. The DM is usually, occasionally, actually, in Storm King's Thunder, Chris occasionally actually rolled a physical d20 and wouldn't tell us, which is interesting. I never do that. I'm usually pretty open about all my rolls, unless I just kind of go into a cutscene mode. But I rolled a pretty good athletics check, and then Annette just happened to straight up rebuff me. So I almost killed her, as you can see here. I probably would have not killed her even if I had rolled enough, because her hit points are ultimately up to me. I'm not sure I'm ready for her to die yet, especially against a random encounter, but she will definitely feel the effects of being hurt and motivate the characters. They don't have Undril now, so that would have to motivate Gillian to spend a spell slot to heal her if they want. Or they can get to Nanny Poo Poo and get Nanny Poo Poo to heal her, which would be some complications, because Nanny Poo Poo would probably try to eat her. But I tried to kidnap Annette. That didn't work. I did kidnap Mannix, which was hilariously awesome. And then George actually just volunteered to be kidnapped, which I will probably reward him with inspiration for. It's really hard to reward inspiration for Raymond, for his characters, because they just do... He just lives in the now. Like, he just does whatever he thinks is going to be the most interesting thing, which is both fascinating, great for a DM, and horrible for a DM. He's... Every DM group needs every D&D group needs a Raymond type player, because they really do spice things up. Occasionally it's frustrating, because he's one of those players that tries to get away with like whatever he can get away with, and as a DM you don't really want to say no, but you sometimes have to like at least put the kibosh on these things, or at least limit that. But also he does really fun things, and I think volunteering to be kidnapped in order to follow Mannix and help him out is great. But then on the flip side, I was not so enthused when he literally wanted to just try to attack and kill his Terrafolk and then crash land into the nest and then fight everything. He's very, very fight heavy, which that's going to be interesting. When I start this next session, I don't know. Hey, Andrew. I don't know what I am going to do with George. Because he literally offered to... I think I'm going to have to back things up a little bit, because I think I cutscened like Mannix being dropped in the Terrafolk nest, and George is full chaotic. He's chaotic crazy, which is a common player alignment. But George wants to like attack his Terrafolk and then crash land into the nest and possibly just fight them all, and it kind of fucked up. So... And I don't want to just hand wave it into a cutscene, like, well, the Terrafolk overwhelm you, versus, like, do I actually let him sit... Because, again, do I actually let him sit there and, like, fight and, like, put him in initiative order and because, meanwhile, none of the other players are doing that, so it kind of slows things down. I mean, it can be a cool moment to focus on players occasionally, but I'm very cognizant about focusing on one player for too long, as it is a group game. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with George's attitude, or he may just change things up once I like, all right, let's back it up. Here's Mannix flying in fact, let's change to the Terrafolk nest. So that's how the last session ended. It ended on a literal cliffhanger, as some of the players are being flown into a cliff. In fact, let me get rid of George from this map. GM layer to you. Alright, so here is the nest they're being dragged to, which is just a random nest cave I found. The Terrafolk nest, which is in the book. It's a flock of 20 Terrafolk that nest in a cave just below the southern lip of the plateau. So it's this really cool dungeon location that's located on this, again, 1800... You fall 200 feet, yeah. You don't want to fall from that shit. They get dragged, or flown into this cave, and the entrance is located high up on this cliff. It's actually almost at the top. So escape is pretty difficult. There is a back entrance, which I'll get to. There's also no lighting, which you can see the dynamic lighting for somebody like Mannix. He's literally going to be dragged into this dark cave that he doesn't see, you know, where he's going to end up. So at a certain point, he will just not be able to see anything. Calmerix, how dare you miss our streams? It does mention that there are 2d6 Terrafolk here at any given time. And it also mentions that they give... it's not Firefinger. Not yet. Unfortunately, my player's not gone to Firefinger. It mentions they give birth to live young, and I'm literally picturing them as capturing food and then feeding them to, you know, that classic scene where the mama bird feeds the baby, although they aren't vomiting up the the players. That was the zombie T-Rex. You know, to the like the snapping birds and whatever. I think there was a scene in one of the recent King Kong movies that had that too. You know, dropped into the nest and then the babies are kind of coming at you. So that's the kind of thing I want to put onto Mannix and George. George sounds like he might enter this thing more violently, whereas Mannix is going to wait things out because he's not a very combative person. So my plan is to drag Mannix and drop him off in a nest and not have anybody attack him immediately. Like, they just kind of leave the food back there and there's not even the babies there. that are aware of him. So basically, not put him in immediate danger, but put him in a very dangerous location just to see what the fuck he does. And then whereas with George, we'll be right behind him, and then George is going to have to decide. And I'm gonna explain all of Mannix's stuff first, so that mainly George is aware that you can be dropped off in this nest and not be immediately attacked. I want to get that across to George and Raymond, and still leave it up to him. If he wants to fight, he can. I don't know. I don't want to murder George, but or I don't necessarily want George to murder everyone here, but that may end up happening. So we'll just kind of play it by ear and see. If George really wants to just enter combat and do it, then I will do that and have the Terrafolk just go ape on him. At least all the adults here. It does mention that there are, like I said, only 2d6 Terrafolk there at any time, and the rest return at night. So there's not that many Terrafolk, and the ones that are carrying George and Mannix are significantly wounded. Do you have private conversations with PCs about tracking stat alignment with changing in-play behaviors to change alignment? It used to be alignment limits PC classes. Eldron, honestly, what is alignment? Like, it's... they're guidelines, really. I mean, you can reward somebody for role-playing your alignment, but alignment just feels... Especially with 5th edition, they got rid of all of the alignment prerequisites. Used to be, like, you had to be lawful good to be a paladin, or you had to be chaotic to be a barbarian, or I think chaotic to be a bard or something. You know, there were restrictions. There are no more restrictions now when it comes to alignment and mechanics. There's none. Alignment is basically useless in terms of, like, game mechanics, I think. It's purely a role-playing thing, which is fine. I think it's a useful guideline for role-playing, but I don't know. I think just people are more than that alignment. Like, yeah, you can. It's a shorthand, but one thing we did when we were creating our characters is I had everybody come up with 5 quirks that described their character, basically just 5 adjectives, and I feel like that worked better than alignment. Like, what is your character all about? Like, are they smart? Are they paranoid? Are they brave? Are they fastidious? Are they prone to anger? Like, all those different characteristics are more useful to me than just straight up alignment. So yes, George is lawful good. He's lawful crazy, really. He's not even lawful. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Raymond would ever play a character that would fit into any kind of alignment other than chaotic crazy. And even then, like with Kalinar and Prince of the Apocalypse, like, he was lawful neutral, but he was always his own law, which at that point, you can be whatever alignment works. I guess you always have a certain code to yourself. So, yeah, it's to me, it's less about role-playing your alignment and more about role-playing just who your character is. Like, once we've figured out your character, and, those quirks help you decide your character, but characters also develop... It's a problem with all RPGs. You're supposed to create your character before you play that character, and maybe that character changes. People change, and especially when it comes to any video games too. Like, you may decide like you want to play a different kind of character after you've played for a while and learned about the different systems of the game. So, yeah, not to go off on a rant about alignment, but like, yes, alignment is a thing in D&D, but obviously, honestly, in 5th edition, it's less of a thing. And for our campaign, I'm not, I'm not having those conversations. We joke about it. We're like, oh yeah, aren't you lawful good or something? But it's not like I certainly don't penalize somebody. I do reward them just for doing fun shit. Like, if, role-playing your character should be rewarding, but it's up to you to decide what your character is. And if, like George's thing about grungs, like, that's really funny and fun, and that's not something you can make at character creation. That's just something you develop. So that's the kind of thing that I would reward, and that kind of thing is more useful and fun to me than just straight alignment. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk on alignment. I tried to enforce alignment in my campaign, but it's a fruitless effort. Yeah. I mean, alignment was, I think, more important with previous editions of D&D, because literally if you were wanting to multiclass, or which multiclassing was a bigger deal, or be certain races or classes, then alignment was very, very important and frankly restrictive. And that's why they got rid of it, because it was, I think, just too restrictive. You just want to play your character in different ways, and players can change and all that. And you can still tell those stories. You can be a fallen paladin that redeems himself, but you don't have to necessarily stick to any one particular alignment. I also like how my players handle themselves roleplay wise. Yeah, I think everybody, and you know, we've been playing with this group for so long. These are all my best friends, and we've got a good handling on what kind of players that we tend to like playing, and everybody does a pretty good job with role playing. So I have no complaints about that. Labels, schmavels, exactly. A few magic items factor in alignment. That, Scott. I haven't seen that, but that could be possible. I know they still preach. I know they still have a lot of magic items that are tied to certain classes. I definitely know that's a thing, and possibly races. I haven't seen alignment, but that should be. There probably are some like really evil magic items that maybe only evil alignment, that kind of thing. So that could be part of it, but I haven't. Honestly, I can't think of any off the top of my head that we've used, but that's definitely a thing. Occasionally, I think there was like one magic, some kind of statue in Prince of the Apocalypse that specifically said you had to be good aligned in order to get the benefit of it, so that would come in handy. And in that case, like, yes, I should have been tracking like some kind of alignment. I remember literally playing like Neverwinter Nights that had it as a numerical value. It was like if you're lawful good, you're 100. If you're lawful neutral, you're 50 or something, and you could go negative if you're evil, and then literally it would give you like plus or minuses. But again, it mattered there because you needed to, you know, be chaotic to be a barbarian and lawful to be a paladin, that kind of thing. But now it doesn't matter. Anyway, so the Terrafolk Nest, I made it into a full dungeon. I mean, not a full dungeon, it's a cave. Mannix will be dragged in there and dropped off. He did attach himself to this Terrafolk, so I'm going to have to somehow describe the fact that this Terrafolk, get off me, you know, kind of a thing that he wants to get off, and he should be aware that there are a lot of Terrafolk here and he's in a dangerous situation. He does have the Sanctuary spell on him, but it only lasts a minute, so it's really not going to help him in the long run. And then I'll describe the fact that he's left in there kind of on his own. Maybe there's some babies over there that are, maybe they're already eating a food. They're already eating like a dead something, some creature, and they're not really interested in eating Mannix at the moment, so he's safe right now. And I will also, cave equals dungeon, yep, describe the fact that there is a back door into this Terrafolk nest that even the Terrafolk aren't aware of, which I don't think Mannix has dark vision. Well, he doesn't, he's a human. He does have those Wookiee nuts, so he'd be able to light his way. But he would either feel like a little bit of a breeze, or if he obviously lights up something, he would be able to see that. I believe it's a perception check, but his perception is bananas. It's like a 16 passive perception or something. So he could get up that way. However, the cave ceiling is 20 feet high, so he has to be able to get up there and then climb that shaft about 30 feet to get to the top, and that reaches the plateau of Mabala. So that is a way that the players could escape. It would probably require some kind of a athletics check, but the book does not have any information. In fact, the book does not describe what kind of check it requires to scale Mabala either. It just mentions the fact that they have to have a climbing kit, proficiency in athletics, and at least 300 feet of rope. But that's to literally scale like the entire plateau. I was thinking if my players want to try to, once they reach the other team, once they reach the top, if they want to scale down into the cave entrance, would that require some kind of a skill check to climb? I would imagine yes, but if they fall, I probably don't want to have them fall 1,800 feet to their death, so they would probably just fall onto the ledge, which is 30 feet. So I would probably have that involved in a skill check. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me what kind of a skill check, so maybe I would do the same. DC 13 is usually kind of a good. That's somewhere between easy and medium. Shrugs and shrugging. Sentient items only follow good or evil example. Yeah, that's a good point. You can't have my players. No one can have my precious players. So there are multiple ways to get this group to join up, but I just want to make a fun situation where the team is separated at the moment. And I want to kind of go back and forth. There's also a tricky thing with the DM when you do have the team separate. How much time do you spend on Group A and Group B? So I want to make sure, I'll probably describe Mannix's first, then go back to the other team, maybe then describe George's coming in here, then go back to the other team. And are they just going to wait there at the cliff? Or are they going to continue up? I don't know what they're going to do, but hopefully they go up there. And they can actually interact with Nanny Poo Poo and everything up there while these guys are trying to figure out what to do in here. And again, they can fight their way out, which probably won't end well because there's only 2 of them here and there's a bunch of Terrafolk. They can try to escape via that cave, which would require them to find it, which should be easy to find, but require some kind of a skill check to go up. I would probably maybe allow them to stealth upwards, but if he has a light on, then obviously in fact, if he turns a light on, I bet the Terrafolk would just try to attack him in general, because they were like, what the fuck is this thing, shining a light for? So he would have to try to figure out a way to get out without being seen. Whereas George would probably want to fight his way out, which would end disastrously. Which, I mean, George is injured. There's a lot of Terrafolk here. I would probably end up downing George, and then that would make things really interesting, because then the players would have to come down and rescue him. So that could be interesting. I do need to roll for hit points for everybody in here, I believe. Did I just copy and paste? I did. Terrafolk, what is your hit points? 40, 10, plus 4. Average of 26. 40, 10, plus 4. What do we got? Alright, so I've got 1, 2, 3. I've already rolled hit points for those 2. I've only got 4 in here at the moment, which is actually pretty low. I'm probably going to have 6 total. I think I was going to have these, I don't know, just have them hanging out. Like that. So I need to have 6 rolls. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rolling hit points. Just to add a little bit of spice and variety. Some of these guys ate their Wheaties this morning. Actually, it seemed like I rolled pretty well on all these. Look at that. Some of them above 30. 32. Only one of them's like sickly. Yeah, that's well above average. The 22 over here is a little under the weather. Whoops. And 29 and 25. Not bad. I haven't decided if the babies, like what their stats are. I forgot what the rule is when other creatures have baby. I think that it's usually like they're CR0 and have non-effective attacks or something. So I'd probably just literally have it be like, I don't know. They have like a 1d10 hit points, and they literally have no real effective attack. So they're on the map as a token, but they're not really like, they're non-combatants, in other words. Favorite thing to do, roll for enemy hit points. Yeah, rolling dice is fun. Alright, so that takes care of that. Now there are more Terrafolk. Terrafolk. There they are. That return at night. It does say there are 20 total. In fact, let's do the math. How many attacked the players? 6? They killed 4. Right? No. 5. They killed 3. So there's 3 dead. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in here. So that's 9. There's the 2 that carry those ones. That's 11. So there's still 9 more that return at night. Whew, that's a lot. Learning their life story. That's a lot of Terrafolk. So things get way trickier at night. Whoa, boy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. God damn. They're so freaking big, too. 8, 9. That's a scary amount. I don't know if I'm going to roll for points for all these guys. I'm just going to put them on the GM layer for now. They had the ability to change the opacity of the GM layer, which is really interesting. I don't know how much. Let's see, what is it? Okay, they become just less. Ooh. Fascinating. I don't know if anybody asked for that, but sure, I'll take that. Oh no, I hope it's not me that's lagging. So yeah, if and right now it was probably afternoon, so the players would certainly have a lot of time before the Terrafolk would return. But if they decide to wait things out until nightfall, that would probably be a bad situation for them. They don't know that it's bad, but they would end up with a lot more Terrafolk to deal with. So let's talk about what the other players are doing. This is what the Terrafolk is. Oh, I do want to put some treasure in here. And again, I kind of started the session talking about treasure because I do feel really bad about the fact that my players have not... yeah, we need more map players. Have not really gotten a whole lot of treasure, and there's not a lot of treasure in Tomb of Annihilation in general. You know, I've really been dragging them along into the low levels. This is one of the longest Tier 1 adventures that WotC has ever published, I think, besides obviously Lost Mine of Fandelver, which is all Tier 1. Basically the entire jungle is Tier 1, which Tier 1, when I say that, I mean levels 1 through 4, because by the time they enter Omu, I believe they're supposed to be like level 5 or 6. So, and again, that's why I don't want to get bogged down in the hex crawl too much, because who wants to be Tier 1 for that long? But I do want to try to, you know, balance it out and make it fun, because that's the jungle remains dangerous while they're these relatively low levels. That being said, even Lost Mine of Fandelver was also low levels, and they got plenty of loot in that one. A lot of +1 weapons, the Gauntlets of Ogre, Strength, a lot of potions, wands, I think a +1 armor. So there's a lot of loot in that one, and I really want to give them more loot in this one. I am going to toss a random horde in the corner, Michael. But there is loot actually listed in this dungeon for once. It says in the back half of the cave. By the way, I always have the actual physical book open. I suppose I should... well, this one's hard because it's not its own location. I suppose I could always pull it up on here, so I've got some kind of visual for there. There we go. Here's my... Nope, where's my ball? There it is. So here's the Terrafolk Nest talks about. In the back half of the cave are the bodies of 2 partially eaten explorers. A discarded backpack near them contains 6 gold in a pouch. Whoop-de-fucking-do. A silvered dagger and a potion of greater healing. Not even a magic weapon, just a silvered dagger, which is literally just... It acts like a magic weapon, except it's not magic, which is so fucking lame. Potion of greater healing is solid, though. So, I mean, a silver dagger is great, but I think I might give them a straight-up +1 dagger, at least. I did give them a +1 longbow at Camp Vengeance. I think George grabbed it. In fact, I think... I've got a spreadsheet open. I think the only person that really hasn't gotten anything at all is Theron. In terms of loot. Because Mannix technically has the Ointment of Healing Jar, and he's got, I think he took the Oil of Slipperiness. Kaless has the Vorn Amulet, which is a weird, you know, she's got the ally basically that can control, which, I mean, that is a magic item. A really powerful one. Gillian took the Ring of Jumping, and George has the Longbow +1, as well as the Gloves of Climbing and Swimming. So I don't have anything for Theron yet. But since, I don't know. I want to put something here and something in Mabala. I want to do both for them. Because I'm nice like that. Again, I just feel... And loot is fun. Like, 5e has a much less emphasis on loot, but loot is still fun. So I probably will up the money intake, because 6 gold at level 4 is just embarrassing for the DM to hand out. It's just called don't waste my time money. In fact, how much fucking money do they have? One advantage to Roll20 is I can look at my player character sheets at any time I want. How much money does Mannix have right now? Mannix has the equivalent of 108 gold. 24 gold on him, 48 silver, 50 copper. So yeah, 6 gold is not going to fucking mean anything. So I would probably up that at least by... Well, I mean, they have to divide it up too, I mean, in theory. So I would probably have that be a slightly bigger treasure cache. Probably also some gems too. Gems, players like getting gems. And who doesn't like getting gems? So I will probably raise that up. If you guys have any suggestions on good Tier 1 magic items, do let me know. I am open to suggestions on that. I haven't really cracked open the... Well, I guess I should crack open the Dungeon Master's guidebook to really look and see which ones matter. And I do like using magic items that are tailored to the players. One thing I plan on doing is when the players get to the end of their own personal quests, is rewarding them with a cool magic item. So like when Gillian gets to the end of her personal quest, I want to reward her with a, you know, some kind of a bard like magic instrument or something to that effect. Kaless should probably have some kind of, you know, assassin's blade, or maybe something that helps her stealth better. You know, something that really ties into all of their different things. Theron should have something to do with wild shapes when they get to the end. But those are very far-reaching personal quests. They... you know, all of them are either going to be completed in and around Omu, or like right before they get there. Probably none of them really should be completed until they make it back to Port Nyanzaru, get the ship, and then start going around to those areas. So these are going to be definitely Tier 2 rewards. So I do plan on giving them particularly good magic items as a reward for that. But until then, I still want to reward them with some nice loot. So, I mean, like a +1 dagger could be nice. A venom dagger would be really good. I know Kaless would love the shit out of that. I still want to give something to Theron though. Maybe some kind of a staff. I know I'll have some cool, like a cool snake staff at Oralunga that he'll probably want. I can definitely keep the Potion of Greater Healing. So I'm thinking of just some kind of magical weapon in the Terrafolk Nest. Which maybe I should tailor it to Manix then, since Manix will probably be the one to find it. In which case he uses he doesn't really use weapons, so maybe actually some kind of item that he could use more. I mean, he does use weapons. He uses a crossbow. But in lieu of literally just giving him a good crossbow, I could maybe give him some kind of random wondrous item that he could, maybe a wand of some kind that he could use. Could be pretty good. I could lean towards a wand. Periapt of Health. That's a really good magic item. Isn't that the one that gives you, like... In fact, do I have that on here? Search health, because I don't know how to spell Periapt either. Oh, maybe I was thinking of the Amulet of Health. Constitution becomes 19. That's a really good one for anybody. Straight up more hit points, huge con score. I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't have it loaded up on Roll20 yet. Do I ever use a treasure generator? Mithril Mages is a good one. Roll until something cool pops up. You can set it by tiers. Mithril Mages is a website? No, I don't use a treasure generator. I really should. Especially, I've never had to use one before until this campaign, because I feel like Lost Mine and Princes both had a good amount of magical loot. Lost Mine especially, by the time my players started Princes, they had a good amount of loot from Lost Mine, so I never really felt the need. I did add a couple of magic items on my own later on, but otherwise, no, I never used it. But I could. That's a good idea. I'd like to see a cursed item thrown in just for the meme-esque roleplay and antics that come from it. Yes. Cursed items are good. Cursed items are a good way of balancing otherwise powerful items as well. So you can be like a dagger that makes you attack like the nearest person or something. I think that's a fun... you could use that with like sentient items too. In fact, I may do that. I have the Tomb of Annihilation Companion, which has a lot of different encounters in there, and one of them is this dagger the players can find in like a giant pile of dinosaur droppings. And it's a sentient item that is just wants to kill things. I could turn that into like a cool dagger that literally forces you to kill the nearest thing. Periapt of Wound Closure, Robe of Useful Items. Oh, you guys are on fire. Underrated and really useful in Tomb of Annihilation. So the Robe of Useful Items, Jerry, is that the one with the pockets? Or no, not the that you can tear off patches? Because literally, if you recall, at another thing at character creation, I had all the players roll for actually it was session 1 when I did their backstories. They can roll for trinkets, and Manix rolled a vest with 100 pockets as a trinket. And assuming that he's held on to that, and we'll just kind of say that he has for whatever reason, I think he tried to get rid of it once. Whenever he completes his personal quest, finding Artist, maybe Artist will just do this for him, his robe, his useless vest of 100 pockets will transform into the Robe of Useful Items, or maybe a Vest of Useful Items. So literally it would become that like every pocket he can pull something out, which I think is so fun because A, it's just a fun fucking idea, and B, it's very useful for his character because his character is all about just using random items in combat instead of actually trying to attack every round. So I do plan on having that be his like special cool item that he earns, and I want to try to do that for every character for their personal quest, is really do a fun tailored item for everybody. And ideally it would be in some way of even trying to incorporate their trinkets that they all have, which would be fun. But that's the only one that I immediately thought of because that Robe of Useful Items is so well tailored to Manix's character, and the fact that he's got that stupid vest of 100 pockets. So yeah, but that, again, that's further down the line. That's later on. Circle of Blasting, Cloak of Protection, Eyes of the Eagle, Goggles of Night, Pearl of Power. Go Trevor. Cloak of Protection is always an easy one. +1 AC is it's one of those things that's really, it's not fun at all because it's, you know, just better armor, but it is a very useful item in the long run. It's an easy item to award players, and it does make a significant, I don't know what the maths are for that, but that makes a significant power boost to the players, just upping their AC. That's an easy one to reward, for sure, and anybody can use it. Tailored. No, I did not. Thank you for pointing that out. Slow clap for that one. Thank you, Doug. Xanathar's does has a list of low magic tier items. Those are really like kind of shitty items too. Those are like the Wooka nuts, where it's like, you know, you shake something and it's like a light spell. Not that they're bad, but those you can really give out in mass and not have to worry about it. I really do want to give the players something that's a little bit better, especially if it's in a dungeon like this. You know, if it's in a difficult situation. I used to change weird loot options from the book when it doesn't fit anything in the party. Another +2. Yes, and that should be really kind of common sense for DMs in general. Just kind of general advice is like look through. If you're running obviously a pre-written adventure, look at the loot before you hand it out and make sure you're not giving out a magical suit of plate armor and nobody in your party uses plate mail. Like that's kind of a no-brainer. Like you need to change that into something else. That the players use. So yeah, and in fact I don't think any of my party uses heavy armor, for example, so I would have to use light armor. But yeah, that's just part of knowing your players. There's a document, 35 magical items for Tomb of Annihilation, some good ideas, also some cursed ones. I've not seen this document. I've used a level of attunement to bring out different aspects of magic items over a time to level up. Eldron, can you explain that? A level of attunement to bring out different aspects of magic items over time. So are you talking about like you can spend another one of your attunement allotments on the item to make it bigger? Because that sounds like some video game ass shit that I kind of like. Although that also gets a little fiddly, but that's almost like you can unlock an item's potential if you spend more attunement slots on it. A tiger mask is cursed, needs a blood sacrifice to remove, but adds +2 to strength and dex +1. Remove curse works too. Yeah, that would be pretty good. These are all good ideas. I haven't decided yet. I'm leaning towards something for Manix. Who said the circlet? Let's see. I want to look up kind of what Trevor's stuff is. Do I have any of this stuff in here? Because the nice thing is, actually, it might be in here. No, I don't think I have the DMG on here. Let's see. Does it pull? Oh, it does. Okay. Oh, it's in the standard rules. Okay. Circlet of Blasting. While wearing the circlet, you can use an action to cast the Scorching Ray spell with it. When you make the spell's attacks, you do so with an attack bonus of +5. Circlet can't be used this way until the next dawn. Okay, so it's a once per day Scorching Ray with a +5. That's pretty good. That adds a ranged Fire Ray spell. That's pretty nifty. Anybody could use that, but Manix could certainly use that. Hell, a +5. That's probably fucking better than his natural attack. He's pretty terrible. He has a +1 dex and a +2 proficiency bonus. He literally has a +3 to attack, so that would be better than anything he could do. That would be pretty good. It's actually uncommon, which is good too. The rarity concern. Xanathar's actually did break down, like, here's... It got a little fiddly. It's like, here's exactly how many items your player should have at this level, and it feels a little harsh, frankly. Let's see, what else did you mention? Cloak of Protection, I know that one. Eyes of the Eagle and Goggles of Night. Let's see what those are. Go back to the info. Eyes of the Eagle, is that in here? Yes, there's a lot of different eyes. Eyes of the Eagle. These crystal lenses fit over the eyes. While wearing them, you have advantage on perception checks that rely on sight. In conditions of clear visibility, you can make out details of extremely distant creatures and objects as small as 2 feet across. Okay. Advantage on perception checks that rely on sight. Again, that could be useful for everybody. That could be useful for him. Is Minute seeing the investigation version of that? It is. You have advantage on investigation checks that rely on sight. You can see much better than normal out to a range of 1 foot. That could be good too. That would be specifically for him. Advantage. I mean, his investigation would just be absolutely insane. Those would both be good. And then what was the other? I'm going to scroll up now. Appreciate the chat here. Goggles of Night. Is that just dark seeing? Goggles of Night. You have dark vision out to a range of 60 feet, yep. Or it doubles your dark vision. That's really useful for people without dark vision. Dark vision is just incredibly useful to have. It'd be funny if he actually found that in this cave. That would solve a lot of his problems, though. The fact that it's pure dark back there. Those are all good options. I'm going to have to choose something along those lines, but I like that. I like these ideas. All of these Manix could use, or anybody could use, really. A bag of holding. Bag of holding. Does every adventure just have to award a bag of holding? I've kind of realized that. Because I guess a lot of people care about encumbrance and loot and all that, so it makes sense. But like, I've never done that in my adventure, and we never worry about any of that crap. I mean, I can see the purpose behind it. You don't want your players to carry on like 4 swords and be able to just, you know, hold them out as much as they want. But whatever, it's never been a problem before. But it's just funny how literally every single adventure rewards a bag of holding. I think because D&D designers get behind the fact that like, oh, players need a way to carry around a bunch of loot. Manic should have a magnifying glass. Yeah, that's why the goggles of minute seeing might actually be the best thing to do there. I could see that literally like just, you know, and they could sit there and just better investigation, and that kind of points to the fact that'd be good for his character. Alright, we haven't talked about the top of the mountain at all. We've already been going for almost an hour, so let's talk about what the other crew is going to be doing, or where the other, where these guys end up if they crawl up out of it. The only thing I haven't planned for is if the players decide to somehow, well, I guess I'm planned for, but if they want to just free climb up the outside of the ledge without taking the cave entrance, which is also going to be a skill check, probably a pretty difficult one. But the thing is, if they fall, they're just going to fall back to this ledge. I'm not going to have them fall off the entire fucking plateau. But it's still a 30-foot climb. It's a 30-foot... Actually, it's lower than that. The cave entrance is like 20 feet high, so it's... If they start from down here, it's a 50-foot climb, and then it's a probably a 50-foot drop, which is I mean, that's painful. 1d6 times 5. But here's Mabala. Chris would love to get some Inspector Gadget goggles. Yeah, I'm thinking the eyes of minute seeing might be the ticket there. Or it was yeah, it was eyes of minute seeing. Is that uncommon? Yeah, I think that'll work out well. Doesn't require attunement. It doesn't say. Does it say if it? Okay, yeah, they say if they require attunement. So yeah, it doesn't even require attunement either. Advantage on investigation checks. I think he would like that. Alright, so here's the map. Now, I finally caved and actually purchased some map packs on Roll20. God damn it, I know there's going to be questions about what this one is, and I fucking forgot. It was a certain artist. I bought 2 of their map packs. It was like Jungle... God, I can't remember. Why don't I write these things down? I don't know where I got this from. It's on the Roll20 marketplace. And they looked really great. It was like a whole lot of jungles and ruins and all that kind of stuff. So I originally had another map I was going to use, just reuse my same ruins map all the time. But I finally like, you know what? I really want to look at what some good map options are, and ended up getting this one, which I threw a bunch of more ruins down. But this is the top of Mabala, which Mabala is a just a ruined kingdom. There's nothing left except for this green hag who's in disguise. That's the only living creature left up here. I think she's got a bunch of flying monkeys with her. You can see I've only got the party minus George and Mannix. Again, assuming the party stays separated, which I kind of want them to, because I think that's an interesting dynamic, is they're having to deal with the Terrafolk nest while these players are having to deal with the Nanny Poo Poo up here. Now, she is not hostile. You can see there's a little bit of dynamic lighting here that I've used. Not a whole lot, though. They can still see plenty of the jungle. Nanny Poo Poo is not hostile to them. She is a green hag in disguise, so she certainly wants to eat them. That's her goal. But you know, she doesn't want to fight them all, and she's going to be generally pretty, I don't know, willing to converse with them. I've got some lines of dialogue written down. You know, she'll explain that the whole kingdom was basically taken down by those Terrafolk. Like, the Terrafolk moved in and just terrorized them constantly, and they weren't really able to, you know, get to the nest or anything like that. And she's like the last one still alive, which is all a lie. It's partially a lie. Like, the Terrafolk are bad news, but she actually she ate a lot of the people. She was the healing woman, and then, you know, she would heal people, and then a lot of people wouldn't make it out of it, and then that's because she literally attacked and killed and ate them. And when the players first even get up to the entrance, there's like what, you know, sun-bleached skulls lining the entrance, so they should have reason to not really believe a word she said. They don't have Mannix with her to do the insight checks, but obviously they could roll insight certainly on their own. The Jungle Pack. Yeah, I think it is called something like that. Yes, Gabriel Pickard. Thank you, Trevor. That is the person. I bought 2 of their map packs that included like a whole bunch of token assets and just some really great like jungle ruin type map. They had like a dozen different jungle maps, and I wanted to pick and choose because they're all like $5 a piece, and that shit's gonna add up. They actually call her Nanny Poo Poo in the book. They sure do. That is as written. Map packs are loaded with content. Yeah, I was really impressed. I don't usually purchase a whole lot of stuff on Roll20. I am a subscriber on Roll20 already. But I was really impressed with these, and we end up using a lot of these. You know, I'm going to need these jungle maps. In fact, I think I may use one of these as the basis for my Oralunga map that I still need to put together. I'll probably use one of these. In fact, let's see. If I just go to Premium Assets, you can see some of the maps. Marketplace purchases. Oh, there we go. It says right there. Okay, Quick Encounters Jungle Ruins and Quick Encounters Jungles 1. Those are the ones I purchased. So there you go. And those include a number you can see here. Just really, my overlay is kind of blocking it, isn't it? Move it. There we go. You can see a number of just really, really great ruin maps, and I will probably use some of these for the basis of Oralunga and then just add to it, as well as just giving a lot of good tokens. So I was really impressed with these in general. So this is Mabala. Mabala, all it has is Nanny Poo Poo, the green hag in disguise, and essentially a well in the middle of the city, and that's all that's left. There is a hidden cave entrance to the Terrafolk nest that the players can find. It is a DC 13 perception check. A shoot in the rock 70 feet back from the cliff, so it's pretty near the edge of the plateau. So if the players do spend some time searching the ruins, then I would let them, make perception checks and attempt to find them. I mean, 13. People probably have a passive perception of 13 at that point. But it's not something I would actively tell the players, because I do want them to deal with the threat of like, okay, how do we actually grab, our other players on this map? And again, they can try to get a rope and scale down the cliff. I would let them do that. That would be probably a single athletics check. With the rope, I would probably, I guess, give them advantage at that point, which should mean they would all be able to make it. But again, and they wouldn't fall all the way down the plateau. They just fall on the ledge on their ass and take some falling damage. Otherwise, that's the only thing they can find in the ruins. The other things they can find, and they would be able to see the things too. I need to write that down. They can see Oralunga, the Wreck of the Star Goddess, and the Heart of Ubtao, so they could get all those locations on the player map. That's the main purpose they went to Mabala, not to be attacked by Terrafolk. Otherwise, they can converse with Nanny Poo Poo, who just tells them, basically, hey, can you go kill the Terrafolk for me? And then I will offer you some like healing supplies or needs, which is a lie. She just wants to, she wants them to take out the Terrafolk. That would be great, but then, like she'll offer like, hey, leave Annette here and I can help heal her, and then the players will come back and find Annette in a stew. That seems really awful. I don't know if I would actually have her be already like killed and butchered and served up. That seems really dark. Maybe just have her be, tied up and in a boiling pot kind of a thing. If they just decide to straight up attack Nanny Poo Poo, which they could, and I would not begrudge them, because who the fuck would trust an old... Especially when I've been fucking with the players with the Sohn sisters the whole time and having these old ladies like terrorize them in their nightmares. If they find a creepy old lady, that's their prerogative. They want to just attack her. Green hags are not particularly strong. You can see Roll20 does have a neat thing where I can just immediately transform her into green hag mode, which is pretty cool. Her spells are kind of useless if she's not in a coven. All she really has is her like just basic claw attack, which is fine. She does, however, have a flesh golem hidden in a shallow grave, I think it says. She's got a bunch of flying monkeys, which those are kind of pointless. She's got a flesh golem buried in a shallow grave outside her small hut. The golem will erupt from the earth as a bonus action if commanded to attack. So that's pretty neat. That's just a surprise, like, ambush. In fact, well, it wouldn't be a surprise around if the players attack Nanny Poo Poo, because she would have to use, on her bonus action, have the flesh golem attack. Because even with a diminished party, I mean, they still have the Tabaxi with them, and it's still alive. They could probably still take down the green hag fairly easily, but then once you add in this flesh golem, things get a little trickier, because they are both, God, they both have like 90 hit points, too. Otherwise, they're very straightforward fights. None of them are really... surprisingly, the green hag is not much of a spellcaster. She just kind of has the claws, and they're just kind of straightforward fights. So I would not begrudge the players if they just wanted to come in here, fight, and just murder these two. That would be totally fine. I mean, it's a dark campaign that feels a little darker than the kind of theme we usually go for. Yeah, like I'm going with the nightmare theme and all that, but literally like butchering one of their NPCs. That feels like Walking Dead stuff, which I mean it's effective in The Walking Dead, but I haven't thought about it. We'll see, and there's a good chance Gillian will just heal Annette, and then she won't really need a reason to stay behind and get healing. But Nanny Poo Poo keeps nothing in her hut, as is mentioned. Instead, all of her treasure is in this cistern, which is basically just a big fancy well, which I've kind of created a... I was going to make a whole map for it, but it's honestly really small, and I just kind of had like literally a equivalent of like a cutout, and you can see this is in the dynamic lighting, so the players can't see this. If the players want to go down into this well, they can't see shit unless they have dark vision, and it is a 15-foot drop down to black water. The water is 40 feet deep. Actually, it says unless characters have blind sight, they must feel their way with their hands. They can't even see it with dark vision, which is interesting. I'll have to make a note of that because I didn't realize. I assumed dark vision would allow you to see through murky water, but not so much. So they have to search around and then roll a dexterity check, which is a DC 10 dexterity check, in order to swim down a 10-foot tunnel, which is creepy, of pure dark water in order to find the loot, which is the Hag's Loot, which is a bag of human skin that contains 6 onyx gemstones for 50 gold apiece. That's pretty good. A spell scroll of comprehend languages, which seems pretty good, and 10 adamantine ingots, 10 gold pieces each, stamped with dwarven runes from Hrakhamar, which is a neat nod to another part of the campaign, but it also raises questions about how the fuck did they end up here at Mabala, and I don't know if I'm ready to answer those questions. None of that are magic items either. I guess the spell scroll, but players don't really use spell scrolls that much. Let's see, what is comprehend languages? I mean, I can guess what that means, but... you understand the literal meaning of any spoken language that you hear. You understand any written language that you see. You must be touching the surface on which words are written. Okay, so you can just talk to anybody. Only Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. So out of my party, only Gillian would be able to use this spell of Comprehend Languages. My party is very, very the opposite of arcane focused, unlike Storm King's Thunder. So that's still a good piece of loot. I may put, I don't know, maybe either another spell scroll or just something more. I mean, you know, money is fine, but money becomes kind of useless at a certain point. I will, at some point when the players return to Port Nyanzaru, I will give them the chance to buy magic items with their loot, with their money, which will be a fun way for them to translate money into more actionable loot. But otherwise, that's a pretty decent haul. I'm thinking about putting a black pudding in there. It's black murky water. You drop down there, and then fucking just the water moves, and it just envelops you and attacks you. And you know, assuming one person goes down at a time. So I think that would be a really fun situation to just drop a black pudding in there, just to make it just a little more difficult to try to get that loot, and make a few more things happening, in Mabala, and that's maybe why. And maybe it's not under control of Nanny Poo Poo, but maybe she like hid that shit down there a while ago, and this black pudding just moved in, and then she throws down, you know, maybe she just throws down pieces of food she doesn't like into that pit. I could even put, no, I won't put any bones there. That'd be too. I want it to be a complete surprise. There's gonna be a fucking black, which I don't think there's actually a black pudding in this campaign at all. In fact, I don't think there's any oozes in this campaign at all. No, doesn't look like it. However, I did. Let's see, is it in here? Not the black egg. There we go. There's my black pudding. So can I drag it? And does that put it in my journal? It does. But I need a token. That's not gonna work. I need a token, which this is the advantage of this being like our 4th D&D campaign. I'm pretty sure I have a token for a black pudding already. Black pudding token, or black pudding.png. Which one is? That one looks a little better. There we go. I think black puddings are actually large though. Large ooze. I threw a gelatinous cube in the tomb just to throw my players off. Yeah, everybody likes a good gelatinous cube. There's our pudding. There's our happy little pudding. Oh wait, I have to. There we go. Use this. Oh wait, do I want to use selected? Yeah, I think I want to use a selected token. There we go. Alright, unfortunately that won't show up there unless I actually have it. I don't think there's a way to drag from Roll20 onto this screen and make it the avatar, though. Do I need to do anything else here? Let's see, what is your... Never roll and don't auto-roll. That's all default. That's good. Unfortunately, the token color is not the right size. And I could go through and actually make it into the proper token format with the red and orange, but I'm not going to do that. It's just a one-time encounter. Yeah, it is large. Wow, so it's actually going to fit up, yeah, the entire fucking space here. Oh, I need to do, let's see, hit points and armor class. Armor class of 7 is worse than a zombie. And zombies, as we know, pretty low AC. This is a great opportunity to use a black pudding, though, because they move really slow, but if you're already on top of it, it's all over you. I need to roll hit points for it as well. Oh, I need to actually modify the token, don't I? Oh, I could. Just gotta drag it from the art library? Okay. Do I want... God, when was the last time I actually made a fucking creature? Do I actually want the token to represent... I think I want it to be generic for now. Well, no, because it represents... Let's see, how does this set up on the other ones? I'm having a massive brain fart on how to roll Roll20. Alright, that one, yeah, so I do want it to represent the black pudding. Oh, it's the hit points I just need to not do. That's right. I just don't want to tie the hit points to it. Black pudding. Uh-oh, you're not in here? Crap. You're not a baboon. Why's my black pudding not in here? I'm adding it to my creatures. B. L. Before the blind artist. Black pudding. Alright, where are you? Why can't I select you? There you go. Okay, black pudding. Let's do that. And we'll leave the hit points blank. I mean, I could leave that AC, but it doesn't matter. I wonder why it's called a black pudding and not a black ooze. It's weird. Let's roll hit points for this sucker. Oh, so I could roll, let's see, I can drag it from my art. Let's see, black pudding. Perfect. Thank you. That's right. It's a weird picture because it has like it's the black pudding like attacking an orc, which is a weird token. Wait, why don't I just use the fucking token then? There we go. That works. Okay. There we go. All right. How many hit points do you have? You're another big boy, aren't you? Jam roll 10d10 plus 30. I guess puddings don't have genders, though. GM roll 10d10 plus 30. Literally asexual. 83. Oh, it's a little underwhelming. Fair is fair. At least with non-boss monsters. Alright, so you get 83 hit points. So somebody gets to drop down and fight a goddamn black pudding. Alright. Good. Yeah, so I don't even really need to put that on the GM layer, assuming when I move them over, I'll just have that be... So let's say if Theron goes down there, I'll describe him going down. You know, you can't see shit, even with dark vision. With dark vision, you could see the water, but you just can't see beneath the water. But it does look pretty roomy. And then when they actually climb down there and want to search around, which right now they would have no benefit to search around. If they actually end up... you know, getting Nanny Poo Poo to where she's about to die or something and they interrogate her like that kind of way, then she would reveal that her treasure, you know, she's got treasure in the well. That would be the only way they would learn. Otherwise, they would just have to be proactive about searching this creepy well, which as soon as they go down there, let's put you on the back. they land, you know, here, and the fucking water itself just like moves. She does keep it hungry, yeah. Moves and attacks, which would be just delightful, I think. The players deal with that and start screaming. Now, if the players deal with that and any poop is still there, you know, she'll be like, oh my. Shouldn't have gone in there. And just kind of play it off. These things are strong. 48, 1d6 plus 3 bludgeoning damage plus 48 acid damage. Do you not get... You don't get a saving throw against that? My goodness. Usually you can save for that acid damage. Wait, this is the player's handbook. Not a good crafting annihilation episode unless I'm pulling books out. This is the Dungeon Master's Guide. God damn it. Where's the monster manual? There it is. Alright, wow, that was weird. I opened the page to the Green Hag. Oh, she can turn invisible. Eric's actually looking at his enemies for the first time. That could be useful. She can turn invisible? At will? Oh, yeah. Until she attacks or casts a spell, or until her concentration ends. She has no physical evidence of her passage. Wow, okay. So the players will have a hard time killing her then if I try to gauge, like, before she dies, she just turns invisible. That's pretty useful. I like that. Yeah, her actual spells aren't that great, though. Dancing Lights, Minor Illusion, and Vicious Mockery. None of those are worth using an action that's not her basic claw attack, which is an average of 13 damage. It does take a 20 investigation check to discern that she is a green hag disguised as an old woman, which is pretty nifty, waiting for the crit on the attack. Yeah, that would be nasty. Alright, what was I looking at? Black Pudding. I got distracted. Are you under oozes? How do you... I forgot this thing is organized. I think it's under an ooze. Oozes! Page 240. Tell me about the Black Pudding ooze. There you are. Nope, it sure isn't. I'm looking this up because occasionally Roll20 doesn't have all the information in there, but it is indeed just straight up 1d6 plus 3 bludgeoning plus 48 acid damage. In addition, non-magical armor is partly dissolved and takes a permanent and cumulative -1 to its AC. God, that's cruel. That's cruel, but I like it. That would make just looting random armor off foes more useful if you damage your armor. It also splits when it's subjected to lightning or slashing damage. It splits into 2 new puddings. Each new pudding has hit points equal. So that only happens if it's lightning or slashing damage, though. Also, anybody that hits it with a melee attack takes acid damage. And the weapon is corroded. Golly, these things are awful. Yeah, I'm starting to realize that this could be a more delicious encounter. Rob, we literally just discussed that earlier in the stream. This particular map I purchased on Roll20 from the Roll20 Marketplace. I purchased the Quick Encounters Jungle Ruins and Quick Encounters Jungles 1, which I believe this is actually Jungle. It looks like Jungle Ruins. This is actually from Jungles 1, from the artist Gabriel Picard. Picard? If you scroll up in the chat, we actually discussed that. But really, really good like Jungle Ruins map that just feel like it absolutely fits to Annihilation very, very well. And when you purchase them, it actually gives you all of these tokens as well, so you can just fill them out. Like I put a bunch of extra, walls and shit around just to add more flavor into the fact that this was a city at one point that has been very, very much overrun or overgrown with vegetation again. One thing I didn't do... Okay, I need to actually draw dynamic lighting around this, though. Let's do that real quick. And then it's about time for the stream to end, I believe. Chunk, 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 and chunk. Alright, so now when you drop down to there, what do you see? Nothing but the ooze, baby. Nothing but the ooze. Yeah, it's good stuff. I haven't really looked at I've been able to reuse our same those same like 4 jungle maps from that Sarkris user who is Syrkres, who is on Patreon. They made let's see, these jungle maps I've been using, like the jungle ruins with Vorn, and just all of the jungle random encounters I've been using, all those maps, and I've been reusing them a lot. But for some maps that are more like, I don't know, I just felt like I needed a few more maps. So and the fact that I was going to use them, so it made it a little more justified purchase. But yeah, so this will be next session. Is just going to be all Mabala. It's going to be that Terrafolk nest. It's going to be the party split up. And it's going to be this party dealing with Nanny Poo Poo, the Flesh Golem. They can choose to attack her or not. They can choose to go into the well or not. They can choose to try to get to the other players or not. It's really going to be, you know, I'm planning for... The way I plan is I just plan different micro encounters within this area and just see what the players want to do and how they want to do it. Which is, you know, all we can do for D&D. So yeah, I think that will bring this episode of Crafting Annihilation to a close. This was a great episode. I've got a lot of fun things planned. I'm going to look more at that loot. Trevor, I appreciate, and everybody who gave good suggestions on different loot to add. Definitely want to reward my players a little more. I'm hoping Discord works for us tomorrow. That was a big problem we had last session. We had to panic, and our session went late and everything. The only thing I hesitate to complain about this, but my group, I love them to death. I love my friends, but we all tend to like literally jump on together like 5 minutes before 9 my time, which is when we go live. We literally all jump in, and so if we have any technical difficulties, it's a fucking disaster because it makes everything go run late, and we're trying to scramble. And it's been going really well for Tomb of Annihilation so far compared to previous campaigns, except for well, a couple when we first started. At some point, Roll20 crapped out, and we switched to Discord. And Discord's been working great. I've got this great overlay we've been using, which has been awesome. And then for some reason, Discord just shit the bed last week to where literally it was like a slideshow of quality, and the audio, everybody was sounding like robots. Like for some reason, just it was not working at all. And Discord's never done that before, so I don't know why that was happening. I'm hoping it won't happen for tomorrow, but that's why you see the last session we went back to using Roll20 video, which is not nearly as good video or audio, but it was a backup plan so we could still go live and have webcams and everything. But hopefully Discord will work. If it doesn't, we've got Roll20 as a backup plan. I will be here live streaming tomorrow afternoon for XCOM 2. I will have a Rogue Watson review video up. We hit our Patreon goal, so I'll be doing uploading a board game review tomorrow, and then we'll be doing Tomb of Annihilation that evening. Hopefully everybody can join for that, and I appreciate everybody coming today for Crafting Annihilation. I will see you all tomorrow and then next week. Bye.